Be ready, 5 seconds. We have curious ideas of ourselves. We think of ourselves as a body with a spirit in it, or a body with a soul in it, or a body with a mind in it. The ears drink up the wine and at last throw the bottle away, the body, of course, being the bottle. It is a funny sort of superstition. Why should I look at my hand as it so cleverly writes these words and decide that it is a mere nothing compared to the mind that directs it? Is there really any huge difference between my hand and my brain, or my mind? My hand is alive. It flickers with a life of its own. It meets all the strange universe in touch and learns a vast number of things and knows a vast number of things. My hand, as it writes these words, slips gaily along, jumps like a grasshopper to dot an I, feels the table rather cold, gets a little bored if I write too long, has its own rudiments of thought, and is just as much me as is my brain, my mind, or my soul. Why should I imagine that there is a me which is more me than my hand is, since my hand is absolutely alive, me alive? Whereas, of course, as far as I am concerned, my pen isn't alive at all. My pen isn't me alive. Me alive ends at my fingertips. Whatever is me alive is me. Every tiny bit of my hands is alive. Every little freckle and hair and fold of skin, and whatever is me alive is me. Only my fingernails, those 10 little weapons between me and an inanimate universe, they cross the mysterious Rubicon between me alive and things like my pen, which are not alive in my own sense. So, seeing my hand is all alive and me alive, wherein is it just a bottle or a jug or a tin can or a vessel of clay or any of the rest of that nonsense? True, if I cut, it will bleed like a can of cherries. But then the skin that is cut, and the veins that bleed, and the bones that should never be seen, they are all just as alive as the blood that flows. So, the tin can business or vessel of clay is just bunk. And that's what you learn when you are a novelist. And that's what you are very liable not to know if you are a parson or a philosopher or a scientist or a stupid person. If you were a parson, you talk about souls in heaven. If you are a novelist, you know that paradise is in the palm of your hand and on the end of your nose, because both are alive and man alive, which is more than you can say for certain of paradise. Paradise is after life, and I, for one, am not keen on anything that is after life. If you are a philosopher, you talk about infinity and the pure spirit which knows all things. But if you pick up a novel, you realize immediately that infinity is just a handle to this self-same jug of a body of mine. While as for knowing, if I find my finger in the fire, I know that fire burns with a knowledge so emphatic and vital, it leaves nirvana merely a conjecture. Oh yes, my body, me alive, knows, and knows intensely. As for the sum of all knowledge, it can't be anything more than an accumulation of all the things I know in the body, and you, dear reader, know in the body. These damned philosophers, they talk as if they suddenly went off in steam and were then much more important than they are when they're in their shirts. It is nonsense. Every man, philosopher included, ends in his own fingertips. That's the end of his man alive. As for the words and thoughts and sighs and aspirations that fly from him, they are so many tremulations in the ether, and not alive at all. But if the tremulations reach another man alive, he may receive them into his life, and his life may take on a new color, like a chameleon creeping from a brown rock onto a green leaf. All very well and good. It still doesn't alter the fact that the so-called spirit, the message or teaching of the philosopher or the saint, isn't alive at all, but just a tremulation upon the ether, like a radio message. All this spirit stuff is just tremulations upon the ether. If you, as man alive, quiver from the tremulation of the other into new life, that is because you are man alive, and you take sustenance and stimulation into your alive man in a myriad ways.